We're moving on to this weekend. Two pay-per-views, Friday night and Saturday night. Extreme Rules, Saturday night in Philadelphia. We'll start with Impact Wrestling on Friday night, Bound for Glory. This is their big event. This is their WrestleMania. I've been to one before. They all kind of feel the same because when you're at the level of Impact Wrestling, they all kind of feel the same. WrestleMania because it grew to be that. Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory was just named their biggest event, and it's just essentially another pay-per-view on the calendar. I expect it to be a good event nonetheless, but I mean, I don't expect it to be any grander or greater. It's going to be in Albany, New York, in front of 3,600 people. I guess they hope probably about 1,000 people. This upcoming Friday night, the card is interesting, and one thing I guess that can have a big time feel is the Mickie James last rodeo, career threatening thing she's got going on right now. She's not doing a Ric Flair retirement tour because she doesn't want to really amplify the idea that she's retiring, so it's more the last rodeo of Mickie James, but she takes on Mia Yim in a career-threatening match. So the question I'll bring to you in this is this Mickie James' last match in professional wrestling?
Not a chance. It's professional wrestling. Everybody retires for a little bit and get the itch. They come back. I mean, Ric Flair just had his retirement pay-per-view, and he's already, I'll never finish. I'll never quit wrestling. I'll wrestle till the day I die. So I guess in wrestling, you don't retire.
Is this going to be at least, a retirement for now, or do you see her continuing this tour, or do you see this tour coming to an end? And then, obviously, like you said, people never retire, but does she lose? Is she going to do the Ric Flair WrestleMania 24 thing here?
Yeah, she is. I think that's what happens. I think she loses the match, and people think, oh, maybe she is retired. Nah, she'll be back in a couple years.
Some other big matches on the card. Josh Alexander, he takes on Eddie Edwards, who won a number one contendership match. Josh Alexander, who won the championship at the last pay-per-view I attended, Rebellion in April. He beat Moose. He's been champion ever since. He takes on Eddie Edwards, who beat a bunch of guys on a August 18th edition of Impact Wrestling. Eddie Edwards and Josh Alexander expected to be a pretty good match. Eddie Edwards always puts on a good match. Do you see Josh Alexander losing the belt, or do you see his run in Impact continuing as champion?
I mean, Josh Alexander, I think he puts out bangers every time I see him wrestle. I think he's got a cool look. He wears the wrestling like headgear and stuff, so it's a cool, unique look, and it's like I like it because it's an ode to like his amateur wrestling background. So his matches are a lot of fun. Eddie Edwards, like you said, he puts on great matches. But I think Alexander's, I think they got to keep the belt on him. I think he needs to have a long. I'm a fan of long title reigns, as we know. So I would like to see even a longer title reign for Mr. Alexander.
One other match I'm looking forward to is the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match. It's an intergender battle royal. You win it. It's like Money in the Bank. It's like winning the Royal Rumble. I guess it's like winning Money in the Bank. You get to call your shot. Some of the people that are going to be in this match: Rich Swann, PCO, Heath, known as Heath Slater, as we all know, Moose, Sami Callihan. He's returned recently from his big, long injury that he had. And one other name of interest, obviously, somebody who was a part of the Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish. He's going to be in this match. It's going to be interesting. Who do you see, I guess, winning this Call Your Shot? It's going to be 20 people. Those are just a few of the names. We don't have all the names. Do you see Bobby Fish making his statement as his debut was just about a month ago in Impact Wrestling? Do you see this actually about like 2 weeks ago in Impact Wrestling? Do you see him winning this match and kind of catapulting to the top?
No, I don't see it happening. I think Bobby's a good mid-card kind of guy. I think that you know who I'm going with. It's always, if Moose is on the card and Moose is in the match, I'm going with Moose. I don't care. Moose is just, to me, he's the best of the best over there. That's just how I feel. And here's the thing. Bobby Fish, a lot of people don't realize this, but Bobby Fish was kind of doing some shady stuff in AEW, he was kind of helping WWE, and then by the time things kind of settled in with Triple H, reports were that Bobby was ready to go back to WWE, and Triple H said, "Nah, you didn't really do as much as I really wanted you to do." So like that verbal agreement that we had kind of in place it's not going to happen. So he had no other choice than to go to Impact because he burned his bridge in AEW. I'd be very surprised if you see him back in AEW. I could see him in WWE down the line if he has a decent run in Impact, but nothing against Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish to me he's a solid, I would say, mid-card guy as a singles competitor. I would say if he's in a tag a tag team. I think he's more on the higher level. I think he's more of a tag team specialist. But if you want to put him in, have a good singles run, I'm okay with him at the mid card level. But I just don't see him winning this match. Again, I have to go with Moose.
Some other news, I guess, matches of note. You got Honor No More with Matt Taven and Mike Bennett against the Motor City Machine Guns for the Tag Team Championships. You got Mike Bailey versus Frankie Kazarian for the X Division Tag Team Championship. And you also got Raven. He's going to be inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame. Now, a lot of people don't think the WWE Hall of Fame is that big of a deal, so you can only imagine what they think of the Impact Hall of Fame. I don't think The Rock will be here like he was for Ken Shamrock to do any sort of tributes or and help induct him into the Hall of Fame. But you'd think that they might want to have this event take place in Philadelphia or something like that if you're going to induct somebody like Raven, where ECW is a little more popular. But Raven, nonetheless, and it's crazy because I'll be honest with you, he probably should be in like the ECW Hall of Fame, but I can't really even think about what he has done in Impact Wrestling, and I'm somebody who follows it kind of decent, and nothing really sticks out to me of Impact particular moments with Raven. But he'll be inducted into the Hall of Fame nonetheless. And if you go to the event, hey, they're going to have the Albany Empire team there. They just won some Arena Football League. They're going to have the trophy there if that's your thing. It is not my thing. I used to love the Arena Football League back in the day, but it is not like it is. I think there's like 4 teams in this league that play.
I didn't know they still played. I didn't even know they still played, to be honest with you.
North American Arena something. So that just shows you this isn't WrestleMania. That the Albany Empire football team is going to be on hand with their arena trophy, signing autographs and stuff. That's the big draw to the Washington Street Armory in Albany this Friday night. And speaking of Philadelphia and Raven, we moved to Philadelphia for Saturday Extreme Rules. The last time Extreme Rules was in Philadelphia was only 3 years ago. It was The Undertaker's last televised match. Obviously before WrestleMania's cinematic match. We didn't know at the time, but Undertaker teamed up with Roman Reigns in a random tag team match that involved Shane McMahon and stuff. But they've come back to the Wells Fargo Center this Saturday night. It's the first pay-per-view event that is not one of the major ones that they're going to do here on a Saturday night. Obviously, we've seen SummerSlams and WrestleManias and stuff like that, but they're starting to move most all of them to Saturday nights, and this one is included. It's not a major pay-per-view. It's going to be on a Saturday night to not go against the National Football League. But one thing I want to say, and we talked about this last week about, AEW getting out of the way of Extreme Rules. But one thing I want to say, and I know, Brandon, you've not said it, but I know you've probably heard it from people. I've heard it from people, and that is about, the Super Bowl, the National Football League Super Bowl, should move to Saturday night so that people can party and watch it and stay up later and all this other stuff. And obviously Extreme Rules is not the Super Bowl or even WrestleMania. But it is a good example of why that is a dumb idea, because WWE has never really had any competition when it comes to other wrestling companies, especially because no other wrestling companies run Sunday nights. It's kind of hand in hand. It's not just you're not going against WWE, but you're also not running on Sunday nights. It's just not a thing you do. But in the world where indie wrestling companies have to make money, where they have to make money, there is a ton of wrestling companies running this Saturday night against Extreme Rules. Brian Cage, who just lost on AEW Dynamite in the TNT Championship match against Wardlow. He'll be in Pennsylvania, just about 45 minutes away from Philadelphia. GCW's running an event down in Atlantic City, only about 45 minutes away from the Wells Fargo Center. So it just shows you that the world stops for the Super Bowl because the world stops already kind of on Sunday nights already. It just goes hand in hand. So if the Super Bowl moved into a time where the world doesn't stop, the world might not stop. And in the phrase of wrestling companies, it's showing here because these indie wrestling companies are not moving out of the way for Extreme Rules. And like I said, this isn't a huge WWE event, but the fact is, if it was on Sunday, GCW probably wouldn't be running a Sunday night event. These other indie companies wouldn't be running Sunday night events because they don't anyways. But you put it on Saturday nights, and unfortunately, these companies got to make their money, and Saturday nights is where they make their money, so they're not budging. So there's a lot of indie wrestling competition going on against Extreme Rules this Saturday night. But overall, I think this is a great card. It obviously doesn't have the bloodline. It doesn't have Roman Reigns, but what I think it benefits from that because you don't know what could be the main event. Any one of these matches has the quality to do it. I'm talking Liv Morgan, Ronda Rousey, an Extreme Rules match. It's crazy to think the first ever women's ladder match that's not a Money in the Bank ladder match is going to happen this Sunday or Saturday at Extreme Rules. Bianca Belair against Bayley. I didn't even realize that was the first women's ladder match for the Raw Championship. You got Edge versus Finn Balor and an I Quit match. You got the Fight Pit match with Daniel Cormier. What are you looking forward to this Saturday? I'm saying Sunday at Extreme Rules.
I know. I mean, everybody's so used to Sunday pay-per-views. I mean, even you're getting thrown off by it. I will say this: what you just mentioned, the last name you just mentioned in particular is DC, Daniel Cormier. As much as I didn't like him as a UFC fighter because I was a Johnny Bones guy, obviously he's a New York guy, so I always respected Johnny Bones. But as a commentator, as a media personality, I love Daniel. I love me some Daniel Cormier, and I am excited for him to be the referee in the Fight Pit. And I will say this: I still think Seth Rollins is going to win the match. That's just my feeling because everybody's writing him off because Matt Riddle has the background. He's the UFC guy, so this is his playground, so to speak. But guess what? It's Seth freaking Rollins, the architect. And I think it's going to be a hell of a match. It could go either way, and it doesn't matter who wins because we as wrestling fans are going to be the winners of the match, so to speak. So Seth Rollins wins the match regardless. What's your pick?
It says that he's been in talks with WWE for quite a while now, but nothing seemed to fit until now. He likes this match because it reminds him of his feud with John Bones Jones. The one thing I will say as a fan in attendance for the fight that I get a little worried about is that it's going to be located somewhere where it's not easy to watch. We remember those old Lions Den matches with Ken Shamrock back in the day. And some of those matches were where they set up the cage with either not near the ring or just off-site in general. So as somebody who's going to be in attendance, I do get a little worried that, the Fight Pit's not going to be dead center in the ring. I hope it is. But I get a little worried that we're all going to be watching TV screens and the Fight Pit's going to be, off in the parking lot somewhere like a Boiler Room Brawl match or the Lions matches with Ken Shamrock were back in the day. But yeah, I mean, I got to say Matt Riddle. They've been going back and forth for a while now. I got to see Matt Riddle getting the victory here. Kind of finishing out this feud. Seth Rollins keeps getting the wins. I think Matt Riddle's going to get the victory, especially too because that's more his forte than Seth Rollins. This is his UFC, his MMA, that whole gimmick. This is his playground. This is his Hell in a Cell. So I see him beating Seth Rollins. My question to you, though, outside of all the matches that we mentioned, and maybe some more we will in a second, is this it? We've gotten more clues, and the clues that we got are leading us to the Wells Fargo Center, some of those clues. One of the clues actually did say Gacy, if you did the deciphering. But obviously people have been talking, and is this the day Bray Wyatt makes his return? And if he does, how do you see him making a return? Do you see him making his return? Is it going to be John Gacy after all? What do you think? Or Joe Gacy?
Joe Gacy. I'll say this.
Dahmer thing, so I just, Joe Gacy, John Gacy.
I'll say this, man. I said last week, I think it was, or a week before, I know it was recently, where I would expect Bray Wyatt to return at like a Survivor Series like pay-per-view, somewhere in that. Like he takes someone's slaughter. He's the surprise, entrant into the match. But it is Extreme Rules. I mean, it is, they need to have a little kick in the pay-per-view. I mean, I don't know. I got this weird feeling that if he's going to interject himself into anything, I think it could be Edge and Balor. I don't know. I don't know which way it goes, but I don't see him getting involved with Seth Rollins and Riddle. I think there's enough pieces there with Daniel Cormier. You don't need to throw Bray Wyatt in there to make that match good. So why don't we sprinkle a little seasoning on another great matchup with Finn Balor and Edge? And I think that's where he comes into play. And maybe he goes after starts a feud with Edge because Edge and Bray Wyatt would be money. Edge and Finn Balor would be money. So for my money, I'll take either matchup, either storyline between the two. Where do you fall? Do you see him coming this weekend?
I do see him coming. I don't necessarily know if I see him in a feud. A lot of people have been rumoring maybe with Karrion Kross. Obviously, Karrion Kross has a strap match with Drew McIntyre, and Karrion Kross has kind of a similar, a darker, kind of Judgment Day-ish kind of thing going on with himself. So a lot of people think that maybe they'll be connecting together. I don't know who Wyatt's going to connect with. I don't know what Bray Wyatt we're going to get when we get Bray Wyatt. He's the master of reinvention, so of reimagination, reinvention. So I don't know exactly what Bray Wyatt we're going to get. That's the fun of it, is that we don't know. Are we going to get the Fiend that we saw before? Are we going to get a brand new creation? I don't know. It's going to be interesting nonetheless. I think, though, this Saturday night, we just get something that gives us more clues to keep the road going. I don't think he comes out. That's just my guess right here. I mean, before the show, I'm going to put out a YouTube video that has more guesses and then more picks for the pay-per-view. But my question is to you, what do you think main events this pay-per-view on Saturday night?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, there's so many great matches.
Imperium versus the...
I don't see that. I mean, there's so many good matches. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how they set things up, especially with Cormier. I could see that being the main event.
Yeah, I mean, that because of the guest spot there is good. I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross. And if it's not that, I'm going to go with one of the women's matches and probably Liv Morgan, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, if any other match I could come up with that, on the card that could be main event. I mean, Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan have been a lot of fun. It's been they've really cranked it up, and I see Ronda going full heel. I really do. I think that's coming soon, and I think it comes as soon as this weekend's pay-per-view in Philly.